Well, it's fitting that a couple of journalists would be sitting in the Ledge Library because this is where, when it was the Supreme Court that Joe Howe fought for freedom of the press. Way to go, Joe.
You know, it's been a pretty long time since MLAs were in here, and in between those times, it's been mostly sleepy on the political spectrum, with the exception of one big move by the government, their decision to proclaim Bill 148. But I think it's safe to say, based on what we've seen so far from this government, particularly on the union issue, there's no going back for them on this.
Right, and where we left it in the spring, of course, is a much different House than where we are now. A bolstered opposition and a diminished majority for Stephen McNeil and his Liberals.
And if there's any difference, I think it may be that we would see fewer, if any, round-the-clock sittings, for the simple fact that the numbers make it such that every Liberal MLA, including the Premier, would need to be here pretty well all the time to prevent the opposition from pulling some sort of procedural move, or perhaps even voting something down.
And we've seen, since the Rodney MacDonald government, a diminished presence for the Premier in the House. Stephen McNeil is essentially only in the House now for a question period and for important votes, so I don't think he wants to be here in his jammies.
Well, and he's not the only leader in the House right now who's having considerations about his future, because Jamie Baillie, obviously he's going to be there on Thursday leading the Tories, but there's no firm commitment from him that he's going to be there after this sitting into the new year.
And he told me this week that after this, he's only committing to this fall sitting, and then he'll make a decision as to what's best for him and his family. So we'll have to wait and see. The other leader that's back in the House, of course, is Gary Burrell for the NDP. Being a leader outside the House is a much different, you get a much different vibe than when he has to perform every day in question period and in debate.
Well, and the interesting thing I think to watch with him is I think we all felt that he was much stronger on the campaign trail than maybe we expected, especially it being his first time around. We'll see if that translates over to the more constrained approach that leaders have to use when they're in the House.
The Premier has said that this budget will be tweaked with more money for health. Whether that's enough to satisfy the opposition parties, we'll have to wait and see.
Lots to cover.
Absolutely.